Hey guys, welcome back to We Watched a Movie. I am Mike, and this is a review. And this is a review of Stop Motion, a new horror movie that is in theaters. Not all theaters, but it's in a limited amount of theaters. Not super limited, but it was at Regal here in Kentucky. Had to drive about 45 minutes to go see it in the rain, and I get there and the entire theater is completely empty. I have it to myself, and I'm thinking, this movie, we did a trailer breakdown for it a while back, and I said there, I was like, this has the potential to actually scare you. Not a lot of movies do. Most just are trying to jump out and boogie you and have a good time. See you later. We will have spoilers at the end of this video with plenty of warnings, so do not worry. But in the movie, the character of Ella is a stop motion animator with a super mean old lady mom who is about to die, and she wants to make one last film before she goes. But her hands don't work all too well, so she has her daughter do the head turning, because you know with stop motion, you take a picture, you move it a millimeter, you take a picture, and you do the whole movie that way. So it's painstakingly detail oriented and takes forever, and I would never have the patience to do that. I can barely finish a sandwich. And the whole time she's doing this, her mom's just in her ear yelling at her, being a nasty old coot. And she gets to this one point where Ella's like, hey, maybe I could direct. Maybe I could help give you some ideas or whatever. So then her mom condescendingly sets her up and is like, all right, what's your ideas? And then Ella turns into Eminem at the beginning of 8 Mile. So we set up this idea that she doesn't have any ideas of her own and that she has a really mean mom, which are two things that they will just beat us over the head with for the rest of the movie. So the Wicked Witch finally has a stroke right in the middle of a crazy Cracker Barrel Karen moment while she's screaming at her daughter. So she holds up in this super depressing, it's like the house from the Babadook, depressing apartment complex with a super depressing apartment, and she's gonna finish the film, but she realizes she can't because she doesn't have any ideas, so she starts to try to make her own film. And then this super annoying little girl comes over and starts throwing juice boxes all over the floor and talking crap about her work. So she tries to make her own film, and in the process of making this stop motion picture, loses her crap and stuff starts to go crazy. And that's all I'll say for the non-spoiler version of this. But yeah, she basically loses her mind while making this stop motion film, or does she? It's an extremely frustrating movie because it had some really good moments in it. The last act has some great moments in it. There's some great practical special effects in here and a really good story idea, but I just couldn't, once they finally got to the good stuff, I really just couldn't enjoy it. And do you know why? Because the first hour and a half of that was so goddamn boring, bleak, and depressing that I knew nothing that was happening on screen in front of my face right now was gonna overcome that, and it sucks. I'm in the theater by myself, and I'm not sleeping, you know, but like I'm in the recliner and I'm laid all the way down with like my poppycock? I'm laid all the way down with like my popcorn in my lap, and I'm just staring up at the screen like this. So much so that the guy comes in to check, you know, the theater checker, and he turns around to walk out and then goes, huh? And I had to be like, no, I'm alive, dude, thanks. Just fucking boring shit, you know? And the story here is not the actual problem. And the movie actually has something pretty interesting and fascinating to say about how much of our lives we give to our work, specifically our creative work. And I think what they did there with the story and how that all unravels was smart, and it was well done. The problem is that it takes itself far too seriously to ever make it enjoyable. Everybody has that person in their life, right? That at one point or another, whether they got a great job that's really hard, or they got into a good school, or just one thing that they're really proud of, but they make it their entire personality. You're like, hey, would you like to watch the game? No, I'm a college student. Or like, you know, like, you want to have a soda? I would have a soda, but like, remember, I'm an accountant. And you're like, okay. But like, you know what I'm saying? The person that makes their entire personality and just beats you over the head with it and just takes themselves so seriously that they never stop to smell the roses or enjoy anything going on around them. And that's this movie. That's these kind of movies. And it's a subgenre at this point, you know? I wish movies could understand that, like, you could be taken seriously while also being entertaining. It feels like the movies are afraid to give their characters any sort of interesting personality whatsoever. We have to watch her for an hour and a half, have no personality whatsoever, and the actress is fine, but the character, we have to watch her for an hour and a half, sit there and be like, the elevated horror genre, or whatever awful term you want to put to use for fancy, slow horror movies, has got to learn that there's a time and place for a slow burn, and it isn't every fucking story. If the movie is going to absolutely blow your mind, and all of this is searing towards this completely just batshit change your life level horror moment, then fine, you can do that. But movies that don't have that need to find a way to make the rest of their movie entertaining while we're getting to the scares. And that's the main problem with this movie. And it's sad because the movie could have been great, because again, there's practical special effects in here, and there's a couple moments that are great horror moments, you know, that involve body horror and some, again, really cool effects, and the story I liked, but it's all just so drab and bleak and depressing and just, again, personality-less. Because it wants to be, it's so afraid it's not going to get taken seriously that it's afraid to ever step out of the door and show any kind of life to us. And unfortunately, like most film festival darlings, this juice just isn't worth the slow ass squeeze when it comes down to it at the end of the day. I will rewatch this movie and I will just fast forward to the end. Because again, those moments were great, but damn, had they just put in a modicum of entertainment value in the first half of this movie, it would have been far better. Instead, it just hits us over the head for an hour and a half with sadness. She's sad. Her apartment's sad. 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 Fucking sad. So with that being said, let's talk about the good stuff about this movie. All right, seriously, when it comes to the stop motion stuff, like the things you saw in the trailer, it really, really works. Those things are so creepy, and the way the camera work goes around with them, and they're like slogging around and making their creepy noises, it's actually scary and it's unnerving, and everything they do in the stop motion world really works, and it's cool. The only annoying thing about that, I'll say, and really the entire movie, the sound effects guy is doing too fucking much, all right? He is so up in there. I mean, that boom mic, that camera mic is inserted into people's rectums. Like, you hear when someone's eating a piece of steak, do we have to hear like every fucking And even the stop motion things, when like there's a scary thing in the window, the little doll's like, you're like, stop making those creepy fucking moaning noises, doll. But yeah, those little doll fuckers with the gaping mouths got me. And again, the end, when they finally fucking get to it, is so good, you guys. The end is so good. The way they use stop motion to create monsters and things like that, it turns it into like a creature feature-esque kind of feel, which is not giving anything away because you see that idea in the trailer. It's done so well, and that was such a smart idea that you wouldn't think would work as well as it does. And again, I really like where the story lands. The movie ends, in a lot of these type of movies, they all end with that like, oh, congratulations, I don't know what the fuck just happened. You're smarter than me. You want a fucking cookie? Like, you know that movie Men, where it's just like, this shit doesn't make any sense, but it's just so some guy can go, No, it didn't make fucking sense, all right? Sometimes it just doesn't make fucking sense. I could fart in a box and call it art if you want me to, Warren. Anyways, Men sucked. That movie was terrible. But this does a good job of that. Like, they kind of use some metaphors and stuff like that for the end of the movie, the way it wraps up. But I thought, and we'll talk about this in the spoilers, I thought they did a really cool idea with that. And I understood exactly what they were going for in that moment. And there's some really good gross out and body horror that comes up in the end of this movie in the last act that's really well done. I'm talking squeezy pants McGee over here. Just like, it's rough. It's rough, but it's pretty cool. Three words you want to watch out for when it comes to this movie: leg, tripod, and meat. Gnarly. The unholy triumvirate, if you will. I will give Stop Motion a 6.0 for its interesting ideas, its cool special effects, and several nice creepy crawly horror scenes. The movie is kind of like 2002's May without the fun 90s comedy entertainment value portion. And now, spoiler time, motherfucker. 3, 2, 1. That little girl, the annoying little girl throwing her juice boxes around everywhere, being a little shit, shocking to no one, she's actually the main girl in the movie. She is her as a child, and she's imagining her because obviously the idea here is that her mom was so overbearing and mean and crappy to her that once when she was a little girl, she was creative and she did have her own ideas, but that got mentally beaten out of her by her shitty old Cracker Barrel Pepperidge Farm mom. So now she's reincarnated that little girl who's giving her ideas and telling her how to make her movie and do all this shit while she's slowly losing her shit and her marbles. And then there's this whole weird scene, by the way, that completely could have been taken out of the movie. They were just like, we got to get off this fucking set, or I'm going to throw myself out of a fucking window. So they go to this another depressing apartment complex where a bunch of fucking weirdos, God, these are people I would never, ever, ever hang out. Put a gun to my head and I still wouldn't hang out with these people. A bunch of friggin' weirdo jacks hanging out in an apartment watching just weird videos. I know they're tripping acid, but they're all still weird fucks. They have like eyeballs painted on the back of their eyes, and that clown that's like playing on the screen, just like smiling and turning his head. Pretty weird. She was supposed to be on acid, but turns out that she never even took it. She's just a fucking weirdo shit. And she has sex, and we have to watch the sex and her squeeze her boyfriend's back for like 20 minutes for some reason. I don't know. But she's even shitty to everyone at the party. It's like, you're kind of just an unlikable person. Like, again, all of our parents fucked us up in some way. You need to move on at some point. But we go through all this dumb shit involving a girl trying to steal her movie idea to her boyfriend, who's just an idiot for being with her, who's always like, please come and hang out with me. I'll bring you food. It's like that Drama-Rama song, like, I'll give you anything, $100 bills, whatever you want. It's pathetic. And finally, she loses her shit, and we go through all this for a long time in the film, but to get to the good stuff, him and his sister walk up, and his sister, who's a huge bitch too, but they walk up, and they open up the door, and they find her. She keeps changing the dolls. So at first, it's like some kind of like petroleum jelly or some weird thing that she's using, but then the little girl's like, I want some meat on that. So she puts some raw steak on it, and then it's like, doesn't look alive enough. So they put a dead fox on it, and that's gross with like maggots on it and shit. And she's torn this shitty apartment to even shittier proportions. It's like Michael Keaton from Pacific Heights moved in and just gutted the whole place. But they walk up and they find her. Now she's using her own meat for the doll. They find her ripping off her stitches where she cut her leg and opening the wound. And this is so gross. She's like, her hands are inside the wound, digging into it, pulling the cut wound apart. And it's so cool and gnarly and gross. And I love that scene. But then she attacks them. And this is the tripod thing I was talking about. She goes up to the girl, freaks out on her, knocks her down, and then takes the tripod and gushes it into her neck hole. Like Michael Myers in Halloween Resurrection, only you see a little bit of it. You see that shit kind of like get in there, and like you hear the noises, and again, the noises are so loud in your fucking ear, the whole just like, but like you see it like smush its way in, and that was gross. It's gonna be one of the best kills of the entire horror year, so that was cool. And then she holds that dude's nose shut until he fucking dies, which is a weird way to kill someone. But I haven't tried it, so I won't judge it. But yeah, and then finally the last set piece, life has melted with the movie at this point, because she's gone, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and she's in the stop motion house as like a gooey doll thing. And then the Ash Man, who they keep talking about it ad nauseum. One of the biggest jump scares in the movie was in the trailer. It's literally just an eyeball. That was dumb. But then it shows up and it finally comes to get her, and it's chasing around the house, and it's doing goopy, nasty shit, like spreading apart and stuff. And it's so cool. Like, it actually feels like kind of like the Smile monster at the end of Smile, with all the teeth and stuff. The way they can use stop motion to make the monster just do all sorts of nasty, gross stuff and look nasty was really, really neat. And that added a huge layer of coolness to this monster factor to this when it chases her down. But then it corners her, and this was so cool, like, for the idea of the movie. Like, your work is literally eating you alive. Like, your work and your obsession with your work and your creative stuff is actually eating your life away. And it's cool how they showed that. This is what I meant by the metaphors, because when she's cornered, she starts to dig into her own face. And it's stop motion, but it's still pretty fucking gross. She's pulling out chunks of her own flesh and skin and just ripping her entire face off and feeding it to the fucking monster. And you're like, yeah, Redbox, baby, let's fucking go. What are we getting today? It's cool. It's really neat. They did a great job with that. And then the way that the whole thing ends is, after she comes out of it, it's like, hey, the movie's done. And she kind of like, talking to the little girl, gets up and crawls into a casket and just shuts the casket, and the movie ends. And I'm guessing her character's dead. She's finally completed the act of letting her work eat her entire life force up. And I just thought that was really cool how they told that story. And now this bitch is dead. So that is stop motion. And again, man, if you just had some entertaining people in this movie to care about for the first half, it would have been a fucking banger. But instead, no one's going to watch this, and it's just going to kind of go away. And that sucks, because it had some really cool stuff in it. Next time around the block, you could tell that the people who made this have talent. Don't take yourself so seriously. Try to have some fucking fun with it, all right? And you could have a banger on your hands. Love your all's fucking faces. Thanks for watching this. What'd you think about stop motion? And what's a movie that angers you so, just like this one, for the same reasons? I love your all's fucking faces. I hope you guys have an amazing day. We'll see you soon.
Here comes that white-faced fucker, an asshole like no other. He's a big old piece of shit. Wants to stab your sister's tits cause he's a white-faced fucker. Loomis can't recover. Dr. Challenge drunk again, sleeping with your sister's friends.
Do you want to know about the darkness?
I said, goddamn.
Halloween never ends, suck my fucking dick, and I don't really care what Blumhouse fucking says. Put him in a box, or suck a fucking cock. You can say he's dead, but we all know he's not, yeah. So let's go trick-or-treating, let's go fucking drinking, let's all go rent Pumpkinhead on VHS.